"Miss Harrison, you need to sign this termination paperwork immediately." The HR director's trembling voice echoed through the glass conference room as 52 employees stopped working to watch. Something was happening on the executive floor of Castellano Industries, something that would shatter everything. Amara Bennett hadn't said a word in the last 12 minutes, not when her boss called her incompetent, not when security was summoned to escort her out, not when colleagues started recording on their phones. She just sat there, checking her watch, waiting. "Sign the papers, Amara." Victoria Castellano, CEO of Castellano Industries, sneered with ice in her voice. "Unless you want me to call the police for trespassing." Amara smiled, the kind of smile that made Victoria's arrogance falter for just a moment. "Go ahead, call them." Her phone buzzed. A text from someone listed as director. "Legal team is in position, all evidence secured. Recording active. Just say the word." The assumptions we make about people, the power we think we hold, the moments that shatter everything we believe about consequence and justice. Have you ever witnessed injustice so complete that the reversal becomes legendary? This is the story of how one racist CEO destroyed her family's billion-dollar empire in less than 1 hour. The morning had started like any other Tuesday in Boston. Amara Bennett, 36, arrived at Castellano Industries headquarters at 7:45 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to tackle another day as senior operations manager. The sleek glass building towered over the financial district, a monument to the Castellano family's 3 generations of manufacturing success. Amara had worked there for 7 years. 7 years of exemplary performance reviews. 7 years of climbing from junior analyst to senior management. 7 years of being one of only 3 black women in leadership positions at a company with 800 employees. Her office on the 14th floor overlooked Boston Harbor. Photos of her 2 daughters, Zoe and Maya, ages 8 and 10, sat on her mahogany desk next to her MBA diploma from Columbia University. Her walls displayed awards for operational excellence, innovation in supply chain management, and her recent recognition for saving the company $60 million through a logistics restructuring project. But none of that mattered anymore. 3 months ago, Victoria Castellano had taken over as CEO when her father, the company founder, retired to his estate in Martha's Vineyard. Victoria was 41. Blonde, impeccably dressed in designer suits, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never been told no in her entire life. Old money, Princeton legacy, daughter of a billionaire, the kind of woman who believed the world existed to serve her vision of how things should be. What Victoria didn't know, what nobody at Castellano Industries knew, was that Amara's husband, Director Marcus Bennett, ran one of the most powerful intelligence divisions in the United States government. He was Deputy Director of the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division, overseeing investigations into corporate fraud, money laundering, and organized financial crime across the entire northeastern United States. But Amara kept her personal life private. Her LinkedIn profile said married with 2 children, nothing more. No mention of her husband's position, no photos of him in uniform at official events. Complete separation between her professional identity and her family life. That privacy, that careful boundary she'd maintained for years, was about to become Victoria Castellano's catastrophic mistake. At 8:30 a.m., Amara received an email marked Urgent Mandatory Attendance. Subject, Executive Leadership Meeting. Conference Room A, 9 a.m. from Victoria Castellano, CEO. The email had no details, just the time and location. Amara felt her stomach tighten. In 7 years, she'd never received a meeting invitation like this. No agenda, no explanation, just a summons. She gathered her tablet and headed to the 14th floor executive suite. Conference Room A was the largest floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. a massive table that could seat 20, and glass walls that made everything inside visible to anyone walking past. When Amara arrived, she understood why Victoria had chosen this room. Victoria sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed in a cream Chanel suit. Flanking her were Lydia Summers, the HR director, and two security guards Amara had never seen before, not the regular building security team. These were external contractors, both large men with tactical gear and expressionless faces. "Sit down, Amara," Victoria said without preamble. Amara sat, placing her tablet on the table. Through the glass walls she could see other employees slowing down as they walked past, sensing something significant was happening. "We're terminating your employment," Victoria announced, effective immediately. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Amara kept her voice steady. "On what grounds?" "Performance issues, cultural fit concerns, leadership style incompatibility." Victoria's tone was casual, almost bored, as if she were discussing menu options for lunch. "My last 4 quarterly reviews were rated unexceptional. I've exceeded every metric assigned to me. I just completed the logistics overhaul that your father personally commended me for." Lydia slid a manila folder across the polished table. "We've documented multiple incidents of unprofessional behavior and insubordination over the past 8 weeks. Amara opened the folder. Her hands remained steady, but her mind raced as she scanned the documents. The incidents were complete fabrications, dates were incorrect, descriptions were vague and accusatory. One report claimed she had aggressively confronted a colleague during a meeting that had never happened. She'd been out of state at a conference on that date. Another described her as hostile and threatening during a routine budget review. "These are falsified," Amara said quietly, looking directly at Victoria. "Half of these dates I wasn't even in the building. This one here," she tapped a page, "describes a meeting with the finance team on March 14th. I was in Seattle presenting at an industry conference. I have receipts, boarding passes, and 200 witnesses." "That's your interpretation," Victoria replied coldly. "Our documentation tells a different story. Sign the termination agreement. You'll receive 4 weeks of severance pay if you leave quietly and agree not to disparage the company." Through the glass walls, more employees were gathering. Phones were appearing in hands. Amara could see the crowd growing. Junior analysts, administrative assistants, even some of the janitorial staff who had stopped their morning rounds to watch. Among them was Tyler Rodriguez, a 24-year-old data analyst who had started his TikTok account 3 months ago, posting workplace stories. He'd built up to 12,000 followers with his Corporate Chaos Chronicles. His phone was already out, camera aimed at the conference room, red light indicating he was live streaming. His viewer count was climbing, 400, 900, 1,800, 3,200. Comments were already flooding in. "What's happening? Is this a firing? Turn up the volume. This looks messy. I'm not signing this," Amara said, closing the folder. "This termination is discriminatory, retaliatory, and illegal. I have grounds for a lawsuit under multiple federal statutes." Victoria's perfectly composed expression cracked slightly. A flash of anger crossed her face before she regained control. "Discriminatory? That's a very serious accusation, Amara. You'd better be extremely careful about the allegations you make. We have lawyers, very expensive lawyers." "I don't make the accusation lightly," Amara replied. "Since you became CEO 3 months ago, you've systematically targeted me. You've questioned my credentials despite my Ivy League MBA. You've undermined my authority in meetings. You've reassigned 5 of my major projects to less experienced white colleagues. You've excluded me from executive strategy sessions that every other senior manager attends. I reassigned those projects because they required a certain pedigree of leadership," Victoria said, her voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps if you'd attended a real institution with real networking opportunities, you'd understand how business actually works at this level. Lydia shifted uncomfortably. Victoria, maybe we should. I'll speak however I want in my own company. Victoria cut her off. Amara, your problem is that you've never quite fit into our culture here. This is an organization built on tradition, on legacy, on standards. My grandfather started this company. My father built it into what it is today. We have a certain way of doing things, a certain demographic that understands our values. The word demographic landed like a bomb. Amara felt her pulse quicken, but she kept her expression neutral. What demographic would that be, Victoria? Don't play games with me. You know exactly what I mean. This company was built by people who understand excellence, not diversity hires trying to fill quotas. Outside the glass walls, the crowd had grown to at least 40 people. Phones were everywhere now. Tyler's live stream had hit 8,000 viewers. Other employees were recording on Instagram, Snapchat, and even holding up company-issued tablets to capture the confrontation. A senior engineer named Patricia Chen mouthed through the glass, "We're recording everything." Amara saw her and gave the slightest nod. Victoria noticed the exchange and stood abruptly. "Everyone get back to work. This is a private meeting. Security, clear this hallway immediately." The two security contractors moved toward the door, but the employees were already backing away slowly, phones still recording. They scattered to nearby offices and break rooms, but they didn't stop watching. They didn't stop recording. Victoria turned back to Amara, and now the mask was completely off. Her face was flushed with anger. "You want to know the real problem, Amara? You're arrogant. You come in here with your fancy degree, acting like you belong in these offices, wearing your expensive clothes, driving your luxury car, living in your Newton suburb neighborhood like you've earned it. But we both know the truth." "What truth is that?" Amara asked, her voice deadly calm. "That you got here through affirmative action and diversity initiatives, that every promotion you received was to make our board look progressive, that you've been given opportunities that should have gone to more qualified candidates, and frankly, I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Lydia had gone completely pale. "Victoria, stop, please. This is being recorded." "I don't care," Victoria shouted. "It's my company. I'll say what I think. I'm sick of walking on eggshells, pretending that we're all equal, when clearly some people just don't have what it takes to be here." Amara checked her watch, a Cartier Ballon Bleu that Marcus had given her for their 10th anniversary. The gesture wasn't lost on Victoria. "Nice watch," Victoria said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Fake, I assume? Or did you max out a credit card trying to look like you belong in executive circles?" "It was a gift from my husband," Amara replied evenly. "Right. And what does your husband do? Let me guess. Something middle management? Maybe a government job with decent benefits?" Amara smiled. "Something like that." "I'm sure," Victoria sneered. "People like you always marry up, trying to climb social ladders you weren't born to climb. Well, this is the end of the line. Your little diversity experiment is over. Sign the papers and leave with some dignity, or I'll have security drag you out and you won't get a penny." The security contractors looked increasingly uncomfortable. The taller one, whose name tag read J. Morrison, had been in law enforcement for 15 years before going private. He recognized legal liability when he saw it. "Ma'am," Morrison addressed Victoria carefully, "perhaps we should take a moment to—" "I don't pay you to think," Victoria snapped. "I pay you to follow orders. Amara, you have 60 seconds to sign those papers and vacate this building." "Or what?" Amara asked calmly. "Or I'll have you arrested for trespassing, escorted out in handcuffs in front of everyone." Lydia found her voice. "Victoria, the optics of this are disastrous. We should consult with legal before. I am the legal authority here. This is my company. My family built this, not hers, mine. And I will not be lectured about optics while some affirmative action hire questions my authority. Tyler's live stream exploded with comments. She really just said that. This is the most racist thing I've ever seen. Someone call a lawyer. Screen record everything. This company is finished. The viewer count hit 15,000. Amara pulled out her phone. Put that away, Victoria ordered. I'm making a phone call. No, you're leaving. Security, remove her. Immediately. Use force if necessary. Morrison exchanged glances with his partner. Ma'am, she hasn't been violent or disruptive. We can't legally. Then you're both fired. Get out. Amara held up one hand, her voice cutting through the chaos with absolute authority. Give me 2 minutes. One phone call. Then I'll leave this building, and you'll never see me again. Victoria crossed her arms, a cruel smile on her face. Fine, 2 minutes. Call whoever you want. Your husband, your lawyer, your affirmative action support group. Make your pathetic call, and then get out of my building. Amara dialed. The phone rang twice. A man's voice answered, calm and professional. Amara, is everything okay? Marcus, I need you to do something for me. Victoria rolled her eyes at Lydia, mouthing Marcus with exaggerated mockery. I'm at Castellano Industries, conference room A, 14th floor. I've just been terminated by Victoria Castellano, the CEO. I see. Marcus's voice went cold, the warmth replaced by pure professional ice. Has she stated her reasons? Multiple times, very explicitly, with extensive racial commentary, and it's all being recorded by at least 40 employees. One is live streaming with over 15,000 viewers. Good. How many witnesses total? Amara looked through the glass. The crowd had grown even larger, at least 50 employees in visual range, multiple devices recording. The live stream is viral. Perfect. Amara, I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't sign anything. Don't leave that room. I'm making some calls right now. Victoria burst out laughing. Is your husband going to come save you? What's he going to do? File a complaint with HR. Write a strongly worded email. I am the CEO of this company. Your husband is nobody. Marcus, Amara said calmly into the phone. Put me on video call. I want you to see this woman's face when you tell her who you are. Marcus switched to video. His face appeared on screen, strong, composed, in a crisp suit with an American flag pin on his lapel. Behind him, Amara could see his office, mahogany desk, FBI seal on the wall, a bank of monitors showing what looked like surveillance footage. Mrs. Castellano, Marcus said with professional courtesy. I'm Marcus Bennett, Amara's husband. Congratulations, Victoria said sarcastically. Your wife is fired. Now if you'll excuse us, I'm also the Deputy Director of the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division, Northeastern Region. The conference room went dead silent. Victoria's smirk froze on her face. Lydia grabbed the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Morrison straightened up reflexively, recognizing authority when he saw it. Outside, Tyler's live stream viewer count exploded. 22,000, 35,000, 48,000. Comments flooded faster than the app could display them. FBI Deputy Director. She married FBI royalty. This woman is finished. Oh my God, you're bluffing, Victoria whispered, but her voice cracked. Marcus's expression didn't change. Mrs. Castellano, your company, Castellano Industries, has been under federal investigation for 14 months. Securities fraud, money laundering through offshore accounts, tax evasion schemes involving your supply chain in Southeast Asia. Wire fraud related to government contracts. We've been building our case methodically. That's insane. You can't just... We have 47 federal agents working on your case, Marcus continued, his voice steady and relentless. We've documented 312 instances of financial crimes. We've traced $180 million in laundered funds. We've identified 23 shell companies. We have cooperation from 3 foreign governments. We were planning to execute warrants in approximately 6 weeks. Victoria's face drained of all color. However, Marcus said, "You've just provided us with something unexpected. Live-streamed, documented evidence of employment discrimination and civil rights violations involving my wife, who happens to be a federal witness in an ongoing investigation." Federal witness. Victoria's voice was barely audible. Amara has been documenting financial irregularities at Castellano Industries for the past 8 months at our request. She's been a cooperating witness, which makes this discriminatory termination not just a civil rights violation, but also potential witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. Amara kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt a surge of satisfaction. For 8 months, she'd been secretly feeding information to Marcus's team: suspicious transactions, offshore account details, communications about falsified government bids. She'd been the FBI's inside source, all while continuing to be an exemplary employee. And Victoria had just sealed her own fate. "This changes our timeline significantly," Marcus continued. "I'm now authorized to freeze your assets immediately under federal civil rights statutes, while we accelerate the criminal investigation. Mrs. Castellano, I recommend you call your attorney. Actually, you're going to need several attorneys." Victoria's phone rang. The caller ID showed FBI Boston Field Office. "I'd answer that," Marcus said from the video screen. Victoria's hand shook violently as she reached for her phone. She swiped to answer but couldn't speak. "Victoria Castellano." A woman's voice came through the speaker, crisp and official. Yes. This is Special Agent Linda Torres, FBI Boston Field Office. We have warrants to execute at Castellano Industries headquarters." "Federal agents are entering your building now. You are being detained for questioning regarding multiple counts of financial crimes. Do not leave the premises. Do not destroy any documents. Do not contact any employees or business partners. Legal counsel is being arranged. Do you understand these instructions?" Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, everyone could see a convoy of black SUVs pulling up to the building entrance. SET-5, the world collapses 22:28 minutes. Victoria dropped her phone. The device clattered on the table, the FBI agent's voice still emanating from the speaker. "Mrs. Castellano, do you understand these instructions?" Through the conference room's glass walls, 52 employees watched in stunned silence as their CEO's entire world collapsed in real time. Lydia stood up, backing toward the door. "I had no knowledge of any financial crimes," she said quickly, "to nobody in particular and everyone at once. I'm just HR. I just follow orders. I didn't know about any investigation." Marcus's voice came through Amara's phone. "Mrs. Summers, I'd advise you to remain in that room and cooperate fully with the agents when they arrive. Your level of culpability will be determined during questioning." Lydia froze, one hand on the door handle. Morrison, the security contractor, cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I think we should all stay exactly where we are until federal agents arrive." Tyler's live stream had reached 68,000 viewers. The comments were a chaotic flood. "Federal raid happening live. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. She's going to prison. The FBI is outside. Everyone screen record this now. Other employees were capturing footage from different angles. Isabella Parker, marketing manager, was recording from an adjacent conference room with a perfect view of Victoria's face. Chen Wei, an accountant, had positioned himself near the elevators and was capturing the FBI agents as they emerged. Badges displayed, serious expressions, briefcases full of warrants. Through the windows, a dozen agents in FBI windbreakers were entering the building. Through the conference room's glass walls, employees could see the agents spreading throughout the 14th floor. Badges held high, securing the executive suite. Victoria finally found her voice. You set me up. This whole thing was a setup. You were spying on us for months. No, Amara replied calmly. I was doing my job, an exemplary job according to 7 years of performance reviews. You broke the law, multiple laws, financial crimes that hurt investors, employees, and government programs. I simply documented what I witnessed. But the discrimination, you probably provoked me. You wanted me to say those things. Mrs. Castellano, Amara said, her voice sharp as a blade. Nobody forced you to be racist. Nobody made you question my credentials, my intelligence, or my right to exist in leadership. You did that entirely on your own. Your prejudice isn't my fault. It's yours. The conference room door opened. 3 FBI agents entered, led by a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything and was impressed by none of it. I'm Special Agent Linda Torres, she announced. Victoria Castellano, you're being detained for questioning regarding violations of federal statutes, including wire fraud, securities fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. As Torres continued reading Miranda rights, Victoria's legs seemed to give out. She collapsed back into her chair. All her arrogance, all her confidence, completely evaporated. Lydia was escorted to a separate room by 2 other agents. Morrison and his security partner were asked to provide statements about what they'd witnessed. Amara stood up, gathering her tablet. Mrs. Bennett, Torres said respectfully, thank you for your cooperation over the past 8 months. We'll need you to come to the field office this afternoon to provide a formal statement, but you're free to leave the premises now. Amara nodded. She looked at Victoria one last time. 7 years, Amara said quietly. 7 years I gave this company. Excellence, dedication, innovation, and you threw it away because you couldn't see past the color of my skin. You destroyed your family's legacy because of prejudice. Victoria looked up, tears streaming down her face. Please, my father, this company is all he has. You're going to destroy everything. No, Amara replied. You destroyed everything. I just documented it. FT 6. The aftermath begins 28:32 minutes. Amara walked out of the conference room into a hallway packed with employees. A path opened for her automatically. 50 faces watched her, some shocked, some supportive, some calculating their own legal exposure. Tyler was still live streaming, his phone following Amara as she walked toward the elevators. Mrs. Bennett, he called out. Can you say anything about what just happened? Amara paused. She looked directly at the camera. What happened here today is what happens when prejudice meets consequence, she said clearly. For 8 months, I did exemplary work while documenting serious crimes. My race had nothing to do with my competence. My background had nothing to do with my qualifications. But my former CEO couldn't see past her own bias. And now she'll face justice on multiple fronts. Tyler's livestream viewer count hit 85,000. What do you want people to know? Tyler asked. Amara thought for a moment. That discrimination isn't just morally wrong. It's strategically stupid. Victoria Castellano just destroyed a billion-dollar company because she couldn't treat a black woman with basic respect. Let that be a lesson. She stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she could see FBI agents spreading throughout the floor, seizing computers, boxing up documents, interviewing employees. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Federal prosecutor wants to meet with you at 2 p.m. This is going to be the biggest white-collar case in Massachusetts this decade. You did this. I'm proud of you. Another text came in, this time from her daughter Zoe's school. Hi, Mrs. Bennett. Zoe says she saw you on TikTok. Are you famous now? Is everything okay? Amara smiled, despite the intensity of the morning. Her daughters would have questions, big questions about justice, about doing the right thing even when it's hard, about standing up to power. She had answers for them. The elevator descended. Through the glass walls of the building, she could see news vans arriving, reporters with cameras, satellite trucks extending their booms. This story was about to explode beyond social media into national news. In the lobby, employees clustered around smartphones, watching Tyler's live stream replay, sharing clips, messaging friends and family. A young black woman, probably an intern, approached Amara cautiously. Mrs. Bennett, I just wanted to say thank you for not staying silent, for fighting back, for showing us how. Amara squeezed her hand gently. You have a voice. Use it. Document everything. Stand up for yourself. And never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere you've earned the right to be. She walked out into the Boston morning. The sun was bright. The harbor sparkled in the distance. And behind her, Castellano Industries, a three-generation legacy built on manufacturing excellence, was being dismantled by federal agents because a racist CEO couldn't control her prejudice for 1 hour. Amara's phone buzzed constantly as she walked to her car. Text from her lawyer. We need to discuss civil litigation. Your case is worth millions. Email from 3 news outlets requesting interviews. LinkedIn message from a headhunter. Multiple companies want to meet with you immediately. Text from Marcus. Come home. Girls want to see you. I'm making dinner. You're a hero. She got into her car, a Tesla Model S, and sat for a moment in silence. 7 years of excellence. 8 months of secret federal cooperation. 1 hour of racist commentary caught on camera, and a lifetime of consequences for Victoria Castellano. Amara started the car and headed home. Behind her, the story was just beginning. Screen text: Tyler's live stream would reach 2.4 million views in 24 hours. Victoria Castellano would be arrested on 47 federal charges. Castellano Industries stock would drop 89% before trading was suspended. But this story isn't over. What happened to the employees who stayed silent? What happened to the HR director who enabled discrimination? What happened to the company built on 3 generations of legacy? And what happened when Amara decided to turn one company's downfall into an industry-wide reckoning? 24 hours ago, Victoria Castellano thought she was untouchable. The CEO of a billion-dollar manufacturing empire. Old money, legacy family, absolute power. Then she made one catastrophic mistake. She fired Amara Bennett, a black woman whose government employee's husband turned out to be the FBI deputy director investigating her company. The viral termination, live-streamed to 2.4 million viewers, exposed not just racism, but a massive federal conspiracy. Now the consequences are about to get worse, much worse. The morning after FBI headquarters, 45 seconds, 6 minutes, Amara sat in the Boston FBI field office conference room at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, exactly 24 hours after her termination. The room was austere, grey walls, large monitors displaying financial charts, and a table surrounded by federal prosecutors, FBI agents, and Department of Justice officials. Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Morrison, a sharp woman in her early 40s with silver-rimmed glasses, led the meeting. She projected Tyler's viral live stream footage onto the main screen. "Mrs. Bennett, in my 15 years as a federal prosecutor, I've never seen anything like this," Rachel said, replaying Victoria's racist tirade. "We have crystal clear evidence of employment discrimination, but more importantly, we have something unprecedented, documented witness, intimidation in an active federal investigation, captured live and viewed by millions." Marcus sat beside Amara, his FBI credentials on the table. "How does this change the Castellano prosecution timeline?" "Dramatically," Rachel replied. "We were building toward a spring indictment. Now we're moving immediately." Victoria's termination of Amara, a cooperating federal witness, gives us grounds for additional charges: obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and criminal conspiracy. The discrimination is the foundation that lets us accelerate everything else. Special Agent Linda Torres pulled up a new document. "We executed 47 search warrants yesterday. We seized 2,300 documents, 89 computers, 12 servers, and roughly 400,000 emails. Victoria's personal communications alone contain 67 instances of racial slurs, discriminatory hiring policies, and instructions to HR about maintaining demographic standards." Amara felt her stomach turn. She documented her own racism extensively, Torres confirmed. She kept a private email thread with her father and 3 board members titled "Preserving Company Culture." It's a roadmap of discriminatory practices going back 4 years. They discussed managing diversity numbers, avoiding certain demographics in leadership, and maintaining what they called traditional standards of excellence. Rachel leaned forward. "Amara, this goes beyond you. We've identified 23 other employees, all people of color, who were systematically denied promotions, given lower salaries than white colleagues, or terminated under false pretenses. You were just the most senior, the most documented, and thanks to your federal witness status, the most legally significant. What happens to those 23 people?" Amara asked. "That's where this gets interesting," Rachel said with a slight smile. "The Civil Rights Division of the DOJ is filing a pattern and practice lawsuit against Castellano Industries. Every discriminated employee will be entitled to compensation. We're estimating damages between $50 or $80 million, but more importantly, we're pursuing criminal charges against Victoria personally under federal civil rights statutes. She could face up to 10 years in prison just for the discrimination, separate from the financial crimes." Marcus pulled up his tablet. "The financial crimes are even more extensive than we initially thought. The forensic accountants found an additional $90 million in laundered funds. Victoria was using government contracts, defense manufacturing contracts, to create false invoicing schemes. She'd bill the Department of Defense for parts that were never manufactured, pocket the difference through shell companies in the Cayman Islands, and use that money to fund her lifestyle." "So she was stealing from the military?" Amara asked, incredulous. "From multiple federal agencies," Torres confirmed. "Defense, transportation, Homeland Security. Castellano Industries had $340 million in government contracts. We estimate at least $180 million was fraudulent billing over the past 6 years." Rachel stood up, pacing. "Here's what's going to happen. In approximately 2 hours, we're holding a press conference announcing Victoria Castellano's arrest on 89 federal charges, 47 counts of wire fraud, 12 counts of money laundering, 8 counts of securities fraud, 15 counts of civil rights violations, 4 counts of witness tampering, and 3 counts of conspiracy. This will be the largest white-collar prosecution in Massachusetts in a decade. What about the company itself? Amara asked. 800 employees work there, people with families, mortgages, car payments. The company will likely file for bankruptcy protection within a week, Marcus said gently. But the employees aren't responsible for Victoria's crimes. There will be a restructuring. Many will keep their jobs under new ownership. Some won't. It's going to be painful. Amara closed her eyes. She'd wanted justice, not the destruction of 800 livelihoods. Rachel seemed to read her thoughts. Amara, none of this is your fault. Victoria created this situation through years of criminal behavior. You didn't cause this. You exposed it. There's a difference. A sec. 2. The press conference. Justice goes public. 6:12 minutes at 10 a.m. Amara stood behind a podium in the FBI field office press room, flanked by Rachel Morrison and FBI Special Agent in charge Robert Chen. 20 news cameras faced her. Reporters from CNN, NBC, CBS, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, and a dozen other outlets filled every seat. Rachel stepped to the microphone first. Good morning. I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Morrison. This morning, federal agents arrested Victoria Castellano, CEO of Castellano Industries, on 89 federal charges related to financial fraud, money laundering, and civil rights violations. The charges stem from a multi-year investigation into corporate fraud and a recent incident of employment discrimination that was documented and live-streamed, bringing national attention to systemic racism in corporate America. Rachel paused as cameras flashed. The individual who exposed these crimes is with us today. Amara Bennett worked at Castellano Industries for 7 years. She was an exemplary employee, a cooperating federal witness, and ultimately the victim of racist termination that violated multiple federal statutes. Mrs. Bennett has agreed to make a brief statement. Amara stepped to the microphone. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. 24 hours ago, I was fired from a job I loved by a woman who couldn't see past the color of my skin. Victoria Castellano called me a diversity hire. She questioned my credentials, my intelligence, and my right to exist in leadership. She did this in front of 50 witnesses and thousands of live-stream viewers. What she didn't know was that for 8 months, I'd been documenting her company's criminal activity at the request of federal investigators. Amara looked directly into the cameras. I'm not a hero. I'm a woman who did her job excellently while watching my employer break the law repeatedly. I'm a mother of 2 daughters who need to see that speaking truth to power matters. I'm a wife to a federal agent who taught me that justice isn't just about what's legal, it's about what's right. A reporter called out, "Mrs. Bennett, do you feel vindicated?" Amara paused. I feel tired. I feel angry that 23 other employees experienced discrimination. I feel sad that 800 workers are about to face uncertainty because one person's prejudice and greed destroyed a 3-generation company. Vindication isn't the right word. Accountability is. Another reporter. What do you want people to learn from this? That racism has consequences. That discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's legally, financially, and strategically catastrophic. Victoria Castellano chose racism over common sense and destroyed everything her family built. Let that be a lesson to every CEO, every manager, every person with power. Treating people with dignity isn't just the right thing to do. It's the only sustainable way to do business. Act 3. Victoria's arraignment, the mighty fall 18 minutes at 2 p.m. Amara sat in federal court as Victoria Castellano was brought in for arraignment. The woman who had sneered at her just 24 hours ago looked broken. Her designer suit was wrinkled. Her perfect blonde hair was disheveled. Her hands were cuffed. The federal magistrate judge, Honor Patricia Wu, read the charges with clinical precision. Mrs. Castellano, you are charged with 89 counts of federal crimes carrying a maximum sentence of 470 years in prison and $67 million in fines. How do you plead? Victoria's attorney, a silver-haired man named Jonathan Kensington from one of Boston's most prestigious law firms, spoke. Not guilty, Your Honor. Rachel Morrison stood. Your Honor, the government requests remand without bail. Mrs. Castellano has significant financial resources, access to offshore accounts, and clear flight risk. She has family property in 6 countries. Given the severity of the charges and the overwhelming evidence, we believe she poses an exceptional flight risk. Kensington argued for house arrest with electronic monitoring. My client has deep roots in this community. Her family has been here for 3 generations. She's not going anywhere. Judge Wu reviewed the case file. Mr. Kensington, your client's deep roots are exactly what enabled years of criminal activity to go undetected. She leveraged her family's reputation to commit fraud against federal agencies. That same reputation and those same resources make her a significant flight risk. Remand without bail. Next hearing in 2 weeks. Victoria's face crumpled. Your Honor, please, Mrs. Castellano, you'll have ample opportunity to present your defense, Judge Wu said firmly. Until then, you'll remain in federal custody. As marshals led Victoria away, she locked eyes with Amara for just a moment. The hatred was gone, replaced by something closer to desperation. Amara felt no satisfaction, only a profound sadness at such wasted potential. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Tyler Rodriguez was there, camera rolling, his TikTok followers now numbering 340,000 after his viral live stream. Mrs. Bennett, he called out. My video has been viewed 4.7 million times. People are calling you a hero. What do you say to that? Amara stopped. Tyler, you're the hero. You documented injustice when you saw it. You didn't stay silent. You didn't look away. Every single person who recorded that moment, who shared it, who spoke up, you're all heroes. Change doesn't happen when one person is brave. It happens when thousands of people decide that staying silent is no longer acceptable. HET 4. The employee meeting. Facing the consequences. 18:24 minutes. 3 days later, Amara returned to Castellano Industries, not as an employee, but as a witness in the bankruptcy proceedings, and as an advocate for the 800 workers facing uncertain futures. The company had called an emergency all-hands meeting in the main auditorium. Amara stood backstage as the interim CEO, appointed by the board after Victoria's arrest, addressed the crowd. As you all know, our company is facing unprecedented challenges, the interim CEO said. Victoria Castellano's criminal activity has put us in an untenable position. We're filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. This doesn't mean the company is closing immediately, but it means significant restructuring. Angry murmurs rippled through the crowd. What about our jobs? What about our pensions? How could you let this happen? The interim CEO raised his hands. I understand your anger. We've brought in someone who many of you know, someone who tried to warn us, someone who was punished for speaking truth. Amara Bennett has agreed to speak with you today. Amara walked onto the stage. The auditorium erupted, some with applause, many with angry shouts, others with confusion. She waited for silence. "I know many of you are angry," she began. "You're thinking Amara exposed the crimes, and now I might lose my job. I understand. But let me be clear. I didn't destroy this company. Victoria Castellano destroyed it through years of criminal activity. I just documented what was already happening." A voice from the crowd. "But you were working with the FBI. You were spying on us." "I was documenting criminal activity by executives," Amara corrected. "Every single one of you, who did your jobs honestly, has nothing to fear. The investigation targeted leadership crimes, fraud, money laundering, discrimination, not employees doing their work." Another voice. "Easy for you to say. You have a husband with a government job. What about us?" Amara felt the weight of that statement. It was true. Marcus's salary meant she had financial security. Most of these workers didn't have. "You're right," she said quietly. "I have privilege that many of you don't. But that doesn't make the crimes any less real. Should I have stayed silent? Should I have let Victoria continue stealing from federal programs, discriminating against employees, and destroying this company slowly, instead of quickly?" Silence. "Here's what I can tell you," Amara continued. "The federal government is working with bankruptcy attorneys to ensure employees get their earned wages and benefits. A private equity firm is already in negotiations to purchase the company's assets and continue operations under new management. Most of you will keep your jobs, but it won't be easy, and it won't be the same." Patricia Chen, the senior engineer, stood up. "Amara, I was one of the people recording that day. I watched Victoria say those things to you. I stayed silent for years when I saw discrimination happening. I'm ashamed of that. But I'm grateful you didn't stay silent." Others began standing. More voices. "I saw black colleagues passed over for promotions they deserved. I heard executives make racist jokes in meetings. I knew something was wrong with the accounting, but I didn't know who to tell." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "Then let's make something good come from this disaster. Let's ensure the next version of this company has real accountability, real diversity, real ethics." Act 5, 6 months later. The transformation, 24-28 minutes. The screen fades to black. Then 6 months later. Amara sat in a coffee shop in Cambridge, reviewing documents on her laptop. She now worked as an independent consultant on corporate ethics and federal compliance, commanding fees that made her previous salary look modest. Companies across the country wanted her expertise on avoiding the Castellano disaster. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rachel Morrison. "Verdict is in. Victoria convicted on 81 of 89 charges. Sentencing in 3 weeks. Prosecution recommending 25 years federal prison." Amara closed her eyes. 25 years. Victoria was 41. She'd be 66 when released, if she served the full sentence. A legacy destroyed. A life ruined by prejudice and greed. Another text from Marcus. The 23 employees won their discrimination lawsuit. $73 million settlement approved. Each person getting between $1.20 and $4.5 million depending on damages. They're calling it the largest workplace discrimination settlement in Massachusetts history. Amara smiled. Justice finally for people who'd been wronged for years. Her laptop chimed. An email from Tyler Rodriguez. "Mrs. Bennett, my channel now has 890,000 followers.
I've been hired by a major news network to do investigative journalism on workplace issues. None of this happens without you documenting those crimes and me documenting the truth. Thank you for teaching me that ordinary people can create extraordinary change. Another email, this one from Lydia Summers, the former HR director, Mrs. Bennett. I know I don't deserve your time, but I wanted you to know I've spent 6 months in therapy and diversity training. I took a plea deal, probation and community service for enabling discrimination. I'm now volunteering with employment rights organizations, teaching other HR professionals how to recognize and stop discrimination. I can never undo my silence, but I can try to prevent others from making my mistakes. I'm sorry, truly deeply sorry. Amara stared at that email for a long time. Lydia had enabled Victoria's racism. She'd been complicit, but she was trying to change. Was that enough? Could people who'd done harm truly transform? She didn't know, but she believed in the possibility of redemption. 86. The sentencing final justice, 28:32 minutes. 3 weeks later, Amara sat in federal court for Victoria's sentencing. The courtroom was packed. Victims, journalists, family members, curiosity seekers. Judge Wu reviewed the case with grave seriousness. Castellano, you were given every advantage in life. Wealth, education, opportunity, a legacy company to lead, and you squandered all of it through greed and prejudice. Victoria stood, thinner now, grey showing in her blonde hair, looking a decade older than her 41 years. The court has reviewed letters from 127 victims of your financial crimes. Judge Wu continued. Federal employees whose programs you defrauded, investors whose money you stole, employees you discriminated against. Each one represents a life harmed by your choices. Judge Wu looked directly at Victoria. But what strikes me most is the employment discrimination. You fired Amara Bennett, not because she was incompetent, she was exceptional. Not because she was insubordinate, she was exceptional. Not because she was insubordinate, she followed every rule. You fired her because your prejudice was so deep that you couldn't recognize excellence when it sat across from you.
Victoria's attorney tried to interject, but Judge Wu raised a hand. Mrs. Castellano, you had a choice. You could have been a leader who built on your family's legacy with integrity. Instead, you destroyed 3 generations of work because you couldn't control your prejudice and greed. This court sentences you to 28 years in federal prison, to be followed by 5 years supervised release. You will pay $67 million in restitution and $15 million in fines. Additionally, you are permanently barred from serving as an officer or director of any public company. Victoria crumpled, sobbing. Amara felt no triumph, only the weight of consequences finally justly applied. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed again. Mrs. Bennett, how do you feel about the sentence? I feel like justice was served, Amara replied. But I also feel sad. Victoria could have been a great leader. She had resources, education, opportunity. She chose racism and greed instead. That's a tragedy, even as justice is necessary. What's next for you? Amara smiled. I'm launching a non-profit called the Bennett Institute for Corporate Ethics and Accountability. We'll train employees on how to document workplace violations, how to cooperate with federal investigations, and how to speak up when they witness discrimination or fraud. We're partnering with the FBI and the Department of Justice to create protocols for protecting whistleblowers. You're turning your experience into systemic change. That's the only way this means anything, Amara said. One person getting justice is important, but creating systems that prevent future victims. That's how we honor everyone who's been discriminated against. Epilogue, 1 year later. The legacy 32:35 minutes. 1 year after the viral termination, Amara stood in a conference room at the rebuilt Castellano Industries, now renamed Nexus Manufacturing under new ownership. The company had emerged from bankruptcy, purchased by a private equity firm committed to ethical operations. She was training 200 managers on recognizing and preventing discrimination. "Let me tell you a story," she began, and the room fell silent. 2 years ago, I was working in this building. I was excellent at my job. I saved the company $60 million. I had an Ivy League MBA. I had 7 years of exceptional reviews. And my CEO fired me because she couldn't see past my skin color. She pulled up Tyler's viral video. Even a year later, it had the power to shock. This video has been viewed 12 million times. It's used in law schools to teach employment discrimination. It's shown in business schools as a case study in catastrophic leadership failure. It ended a CEO's career and destroyed a company. Amara paused, but here's what matters: what you do next time you see discrimination. Do you record it like Tyler? Do you speak up like Patricia Chen? Do you stay silent like so many others did for years? Your choice creates culture. Your silence enables harm. Your voice creates change. After the training, a young black man approached her. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm Robert. I'm one of the new hires. A year ago, I would never have applied here, too white, too exclusive. But after everything that happened, after watching your video, after seeing you fight back, I believed things could be different. Thank you for making companies like this safer for people like us." Amara felt tears in her eyes. "Make me proud, Robert. Be excellent. Speak up when something's wrong. And don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong." Final message, 35:37 minutes. Amara sat in her home office that evening, her daughters Zoe and Maya doing homework nearby. Marcus brought her tea. The Bennett Institute received 47 new whistleblower reports today, he said. "Your work is creating ripples." "Good," Amara replied. "Every report is someone finding their voice." She opened her laptop and began typing a blog post. "1 year ago, I was fired for being black and excellent. Here's what I learned. 1. Document everything, every incident, every comment, every violation. Documentation is power. 2. Speak up, even when your voice shakes. Especially then. 3. Find allies. Tyler with his camera, Patricia with her witness statement, Marcus with his FBI badge. You can't fight alone. 4. Justice is slow, but it's real. 28 years in prison, $73 million to victims, new laws protecting whistleblowers. Change happens. 5. Your voice matters, whether you have 12 followers or 12 million. Whether you're an intern or a director, your voice creates culture. Victoria Castellano thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. No one is above consequence. No one is beyond accountability. If you're facing discrimination right now, document it, report it, find allies, speak up. You're not alone, and your courage might save the next person. This is how we change the world. One documented incident, one brave voice, one act of accountability at a time. She hit publish. Within minutes, comments flooded in. "Thank you for being brave. Your story gave me courage to report my boss. I'm a CEO, and I just overhauled our entire HR process because of you. My daughter watched your video in her business ethics class. She wants to be like you." Amara closed her laptop and looked at her daughters. "Mom," Zoe asked, "are you a hero?" Amara thought about that question. "No, baby,
I'm just someone who refused to stay silent. The real heroes are all the people who saw injustice and decided to do something about it. Tyler with his camera, the employees who spoke up, the prosecutors who took the case seriously. Heroes are everywhere. You just have to decide to be one. Maya looked up from her homework. When I grow up, I want to fight bad guys like you do. Amara smiled. Then I'll teach you how. Starting with lesson 1. Always document everything. End credit scroll. Tyler Rodriguez now has 1.2 million followers and works as an investigative journalist. The 23 discriminated employees each receive between $1.20 and $4.5 million in settlements. Victoria Castellano is serving 28 years in federal prison. Lydia Summers completed 2,000 hours of community service and now trains HR professionals on preventing discrimination. Castellano Industries, renamed Nexus Manufacturing, has a 47% diverse leadership team. The Bennett Institute for Corporate Ethics has helped 847 whistleblowers document workplace violations. Marcus Bennett was promoted to FBI Director of White Collar Crime Northeast Region. Amara Bennett's daughters Zoe and Maya watch their mother's speeches and dream of creating change. And somewhere right now someone is recording injustice, finding their voice, and refusing to stay silent. Will that be you?